Welcome to the Supplement Engineer Podcast. My name is Robert Chinetsky. Today we have the distinct privilege of being joined by the co-founder of Alpha Lion Supplements, Mr. Jordan Ferris. How are you, sir?
Very well, very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely, man. It's long overdue. So anytime I've got a first-time guest on the show, I like to get their history in the supplement industry. How did you come to meet your business partners and then eventually establish Alpha Lion?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got quite a unique story. So Troy, my business partner, we have only, Alpha Lion's now 3 years old. We met for the first time online. Troy was working on a project that I had one of my other brands, and we sort of just connected. Online, and we're always sitting there like we want to start our own brand. Before that, I've had 10, maybe a dozen different e-commerce brands, and they've all, I guess, failed. My first brand was in a high-end fashion. I think when I was back in 2013, I lost about almost $1 million on a high-end fashion brand with a business partner, and that was one of the turning points. We got into that business for the wrong reasons. I was young at the time. We thought we'd be around women the whole time, and it was the complete opposite. And I keep going back to it, and it's very cliche, like the whole passion around what you want to do, and we just didn't have that at the time. We got into business for the wrong reason. So literally every business after that was the same thing. And Troy and I were always been in fitness. I've been training since I'm 15 years old and just always loved fitness, and Troy's been the same. And we just connected online over a project and sort of, started talking and just said how we wanted to start our own thing. We weren't happy with, certain products in the market that we just didn't want to take. And it sort of just evolved from there. We just kept on talking, and we met for the first time in Colombia. I moved here to Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, back in 2017, and Troy came here. That was our first meeting in person, was Medellin, Colombia. And since then, we've met once in Mexico and another time in Colombia. So it's quite unique, the story of us too. And it's got its pros and cons. I think, being away from your business partner makes it hard, but at the same time, it does have its pros. Mm-hmm. Where, we're very well aligned. But that's the sort of the story of how we connected, all online.
I guess there's so many different brands within the industry. And Troy's got his loyal following, and you've established people within the fitness industry that you're close to. What was kind of the mission statement of the brand when y'all set out and, first established the brand? To try and diversify it from, the other brands that are out on the market.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess going back to the past businesses that Troy and I always had, and they were all driven by, wanting to make money. And I think as soon as we sort of change that mindset, and I think that happens, some people have that at an early age. A lot of other people, it takes time. You've got to mature to get to that point.
Yeah.
I look at all the businesses that I failed. It was all because I just wanted to make money. I never really cared about the consumer. I did, but it wasn't, you couldn't see that. Mm-hmm. And I think both Troy and I were sort of at the point where, we wanted to create something that we wanted to take. And at the same time, like for us, I guess, we call our group or our posses, whatever you want to call it, superhumans. And for us, it's all about, creating like a legion of superhumans that, I guess, injecting like a legion of superhumans into society. That the first instinct isn't about me; it's about helping others, and that's sort of what we're doing with the brand and the culture, I think. And Troy and I both very much so like that right now. It's more about at their age now. It's I don't need money. Obviously money is great, but for us, it's more about what impact can we have. And I think that's sort of fueled the success now. And most people you talk to, I think when that mindset shift changes, I think that's when they start seeing some success in business.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned that you're in Medellin, Colombia, and for anybody that's watched the Narcos Netflix series, they know that Medellin, Colombia is infamous for being the hometown of Pablo Escobar. And then you also mentioned that you and Troy also met in Mexico, which is, another big, y'all have like a little cartel going on action there. So how in the world did you end up from Australia to Medellin? How did that work?
So my mother still does not know what I get up to. She, I tell her I'm selling supplements and she just doesn't believe it, So, yeah, I guess it is quite unique, but at the same time, I think it's really helped us, to where we are today. And back in 2017, when I first moved here, I had an advertising agency beforehand, so I was still working at the same time as we launched Alpha Line. And I was at the point we're living in Australia, and I just, I just got sort of sick of my day-to-day, what I was doing in Australia, and I wanted to change. And good old Facebook, how it listens to your, your conversations. It picked up that, I started talking about Medellin, and my best mate told me to go, head out to Medellin. I'd love it. And had a Facebook ad that night, booked it, went to Medellin for 6 months, didn't catch my flight home, stayed a little bit extra, and just, we sort of launched the business, and the business got traction, really, really quickly. And it was sort of that mindset. I was just had a clear head, the way we were thinking, and haven't wanted to go back. We've set up now office here. We one office here. We have staff here. We manufacture like the apparel side here, so it's home for me now. And the big reason is, like, back when I was younger, I had this sort of ties into the whole cartel thing. I got visa issues with America, and that's another challenge Troy and I have had, is that I can't get into America at this stage, and I'm trying to, and that's been a roadblock for, we're at the point now we're trying to grow the business and build infrastructure in America, and that's been it's been something we've had to overcome. So that's why we're always meeting outside of America, and why I'm here. Another reason is time zone. Obviously, Australia is just, you can't do business in Australia.
Right.
The time zone. So so there's a few reasons, but at the end of the day, I think even with visa for America, I'd probably still base myself here. I just love I picture America very similar to Australia. Everyone's sort of working, to make money, whereas here it's all about family. It's completely opposite. You won't get someone to. You couldn't pay someone to do a job quicker here. They don't care about that. In Australia, it's like you give someone $1,000, it's like that gets done. And I'm sure America's very similar.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize. I mean, I know different other cultures are very laid back and relaxed and stuff like that. The Spanish, it's very, they'll have like 4 hour long dinners at night and everything. So it's I guess that kind of crosses across different cultures, and America, Japan, Australia, the ball busters that just will do anything for extra money, and so relaxation and everything else be damned, as crush it while you can.
Yep. It's here's. We always joke around here. If you want to get something done here, don't do it in Colombia. It's there's no urgency to do anything, and it has its frustrations, but it's taught me a lot of patience. I come from growing up. My mother always just said, "You never have patience. You want this thing right now." And that's always been, I guess, going back to business failures, is like not thinking things through. Whereas living here has now taught me some patience. You have to, otherwise you're not going to survive here. So especially the first few months here, or even a year here, not being able to speak the language was just tested me, definitely. That was another sort of character building.
Were you fluent in Spanish before you moved to Colombia, or have you just kind of assimilated and learned the language while you were during your time there?
Yeah, when I got on my flight, I could not, basic words. I came here by myself and hit the ground in Medellin, Colombia. Just not most Americans, most people see narcos, and that's what they think, and that's what first day here, that's what I was thinking. Scared to walk around, and and it was hard over time, but that was one of the things that every day you wake up with a new challenge. It's like, how am I going to even go buy some water or do something like that? And I feel people need that in their life on a daily basis, and that's why I love traveling every year. I generally take off for a trip because it just clears the head, and I like to go by myself. You just get challenged. I feel it just reinvigorates you. So that was one of the big reasons here. It's still a challenge on a daily basis. I've got a Colombian girlfriend now, which has been the biggest reason that I've been able to pick up the language quickly. When we started dating, there was we'd be talking, and half the time we're just not even, we're talking about, it's completely opposite what we're picking up. So that gets a bit frustrating, but it's all part of it.
Interesting. Give us a little bit of insight into the supplement market in Colombia. Do you find is fitness a big thing there? Do supplements sell well? And if so, what kind of either supplements or functional foods do y'all see moving a lot there?
Yeah, so fitness here is massive. Some of the gyms here are better than I've seen anything in Australia. Fitness cultures here is massive, but in terms of supplements, it's that typical quality doesn't mean anything. They're not prepared to pay. So that's been a big challenge, is that how do you enter a market like this? And I'm sure there's a lot of brands out there. I see, I went to the fitness expo here last year, and some of the brands we have in America were there, and it's just that they don't want to pay the price. That's the big challenge, I think, here. And it just comes from education. Colombians, they'll follow a fitness influencer. Some of the fat burners I see here are, it's just, they shouldn't even be on the market. Even though we're in fat loss categories already, everyone sort of picks on that category. Do they work? But the stuff you see here that people are selling is an influencer that's just got 1 or 2 ingredients. It's
Right.
Yeah, so that's a big challenge here. I see it evolving. Commerce here is still very in the early stages. Like people buy through WhatsApp. I don't know if you guys use WhatsApp back in America, but
Hmm.
that's how they do transactions. It's like, hey, I want to buy this.
Hmm.
There is e-commerce, but a lot of people, like my girlfriend, will buy still through WhatsApp. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so I think there's an opportunity here, but it's the brands that sort of want to tackle that. And we've been looking at it because obviously I'm based here. That's a big benefit, but I don't. Just the riskless reward. It's just not there yet for me
Hmm.
anyway. I think
Interesting.
over time. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, you've been training, you said, since 15. How has your personal supplement regimen changed since then? And I guess what was popular? What were some of the popular things that you grew up training on, and how has that morphed to what you're using today?
Yeah, so back when I was 18, 19, it was all about what kind of pre-workout concoction I could put together. You know, we back then the Australian dollar was quite strong, so we were buying at bodybuilding.com, and you know, like the Australian dollar was much stronger than the American when I was younger, so it made sense for us to buy it, spend $1,000, get mix everything in together, and it wasn't based on research and what I didn't look at ingredients. It was just sort of back then when I was younger, it was cool packaging and what made me feel good.
Hmm.
Whereas now I've transitioned, and you're seeing it with Alpha Lion, is that I'm more, for me, like the pre-workouts is great, but I'm more focusing on the health, what's going to help me on long term.
Hmm.
And that's the problem with the industry, I think, is that we want that instant gratification, and that's why pre-workouts is just, the number one category up there with it.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me personally, we've just released a gut product. We're working on a nootropic brain product.
Right.
These are things that for me on a day-to-day basis I want to take, whereas a pre-workout I could stop, straight away. Back when I was 18, you'd never get me to drop a pre-workout. To stop.
Gotcha. Um, with the brand, give us a little bit of an insight into, I guess, the different roles and what goes on a day-to-day basis for you. Are you involved in more of the marketing decisions, the advertising stuff, formulation? Give the listeners a little bit of a insight into that.
Yeah, definitely. So Troy, my business partner, is the face of the brand. So he's very, very heavily involved in the content side. So Troy's built a following around, training nutrition on his YouTube. I think he's close
Right.
to 500,000 subscribers on there now. So, so we're very heavily involved, both of us, in regards to what products we put out, the marketing, messaging, and strategy. But myself is more operational marketing side.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and whereas Troy's like more the face. So the day-to-day operations of the business, I'm very heavily involved in that. And that's just sort of my personality is, I need to be involved in everything. But Troy's very laid back, and that's why we complement each other very well. It's in 3 years, I don't think we've had one argument, one disagreement. It's just
Yeah.
we know what needs to get done. We know our roles. It just gets done, which is I think that's super important in a partnership. Like when I had the fashion brand, it was completely opposite. It was every day just arguing about who's going to do this. So
Hmm.
yes, overall, I think Troy's more so the face of the brand. Content side of it, as myself more the operational marketing.
Okay. Uh, with marketing, how do you go about, I guess, differentiating yourself? Because everybody can do Google ads and Facebook ads and different ads on Instagram and social media and whatnot. How do you go about differentiating yourself in those kind of things and attracting a different kind of consumer or standing out from other companies and competitors?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the hardest things now with the brand is how do you differentiate yourself and stand out. I'm not going to use the word saturated market, but with the competitive market, it is important for us. It's I guess our brand personality has been strong for us. Coming from an advertising background, I think really understanding who our customers are, and I think no brand has one customer. They have different pockets of
Right.
customers, and it's really understanding who those are and speaking to those. We're very aggressive on our paid media, and some people probably don't like that, but for us, it's end of the day, we're trying to build the brand. The more customers we have, the more people we can help. And
Sure.
sometimes maybe our marketing some people don't like, but for us, it's that's our brand personality. And I think it really helps us stand out. When it's on the shelf, whether it's just having that different kind of naming,
Hmm.
the product branding, but definitely I think really understanding that different customer has been a big one for us.
Hmm.
And we're still learning, we're adapting as the brand matures. That's going to change. I think it's important to understand that as a brand, not to get. And I'll go back to when we first started. We were very aggressive on stims, stim junkies,
Right.
and for us as a brand, that's not our long-term plan. That's not where we want to be.
Hmm.
So we're pivoting away from that. Obviously we still attract those kind of people with certain products.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those people. I probably class myself as a slim junkie, and I'm trying to break that. It's
Yeah.
just from a brand as we grow. We're sort of trying to understand different pockets of customers that suit our long-term vision.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when y'all first broke on the scene. I want to say I know the original iteration of Superhuman. It had something. It was what 250 or 350 DMHA in it, in addition to caffeine and all of the other fun stuff, and the N-methyltyramine in there.
Yeah, exactly. That was the Superhuman Supreme. It was strong. And like for me, I can't even. And this goes back to what we're doing now. Is I don't want to put out products that we don't like taking. Right now I wouldn't take that. It's not. I don't know how people can enjoy taking that much stims. I can understand maybe once in a while, but on a daily basis, I can't function. Whereas Superhuman now for us, I feel I've been using Superhuman Burn a lot now because it gives me that focus. But I feel I can take it on a daily basis and I can still get stuff done with the business. And I think that's the point of having a good 1 hour session and then not being able to do anything.
Agreed. What were some of the early challenges, I guess, in when you made that change from like the super hardcore? Now you still have a version of Superhuman Supreme. It doesn't have the DMHA in it, but it does have the ureagerensis alkaloid, that N,N-dimethylphenethylamine in it. Did y'all get any kickback from consumers when y'all made that transition, when you came out with a new iteration of it? How does that work from a brand side, when you kind of start to shift tactics, even as a brand owner, when you realize, I don't know if I really enjoy using this anymore? And, you stated that y'all like to formulate products first and foremost for stuff that yourself. So, I mean, is Troy a big stim junkie too?
No, Troy's very similar to myself in terms of, I think Troy's 1 year older and he did the same thing in his life. It's like when he takes stims, he can't focus on what we need to do long term. So yeah, he's in the same boat. But yeah, like going into your question, that was one of the most challenging parts, and we've copped a fair bit of backlash for that. And yesterday there was a big announcement in Snoop Group around Basso 6.
Yep.
And we, that same person, was coming after us, and at the same time. So for us, we were, since probably about April last year, we were always looking at removing DMHA with our formulas. We brought on bodybuilding.com. This happened with this person, and we decided, look, it's time now. Obviously, with bodybuilding.com, we couldn't have it on there.
Yeah.
But the backlash was, you're a sellout. You're removing this because you want to be on bodybuilding.com, and if that was the reason, so what? As a brand, that's our growth. We're trying to grow.
Right.
So you're always going to have that. It's like with the charity stuff now. We're getting some people like, why don't you do this in America? And it's like, geez, can we just do something good and we don't get backlashes?
Right.
As anything you do, it's going to happen. So we lost customers from that. But are they the customers we want long term? And I think a brand should understand that. It's like, it's hard because, brands are chasing that instant cash flow and trying to survive. It's competitive. So sometimes you attract that wrong person for short-term cash, which really does affect you long term.
Right.
So yeah, it was a hard one. That one was probably one of our biggest, decisions as a business, what to do there. We knew we had to do it. We knew we had pressure on from, third parties, so it's done now and we're just sort of moving forward.
Yeah. Is DMHA still legal? I know in the States here, at least, DMHA is kind of in that gray area in the FDA on their advisory list. So it's not completely banned like DMAA is, but it's, if you use it, you're probably going to get a nasty gram or several from the FDA and that other individual who likes to cause problems.
Yeah.
So is it legal in Colombia? Is DMHA legal in Colombia, or is that banned down there?
No, it's actually surprising. Because going back to the Colombian market, we actually started going through the process to get some products approved. And like the FDA, they have an INVIMA here, and they're a lot more strict. The process to go through that. Yeah, even like caffeine amounts. So it's a lot more stringent here. Same with Australia. I think the TGA in Australia is one of the most stringent, I think, governing agencies around, and DMHA has been on that list for well before America. So, that's the thing. It's going to go. The cycle we go through with the FDA. So I think as a brand, it's more finding what you don't have to, finding ingredients you don't have to swap out is a challenge because consumers are driving that demand for these things.
Right. I was gonna say, do y'all release different versions for, because certain ingredients, obviously, like you could use agmatine and yohimbine in the States, but in England you can't use agmatine, and then yohimbine is regulated onto a certain degree in Australia. So what do y'all just try to formulate one version of a product, or do y'all try to make the most, I guess, intense or aggressive formula based on what's allowed in that country?
Yeah, so we haven't. International expansion is something we're looking at a bit more aggressively towards the back end of this year, 2021. We've been a bit slower to compared to other brands, I guess. We haven't really crossed that bridge yet. What we're going to do there, obviously, as a brand, it's easy to formulate one product, but is it as easy as that? We don't know. With UK at the moment, we're finding that they're still accepting. It seems that the government there is not as strict. How long is that going to be for? But in saying that, we're not doing big volume in those countries. So as soon as we're starting to move big volume, it's a different story. We're going through the process for Canada at the moment, licensing. Obviously, completely different sort of set of rules there.
Yeah.
Australia is obviously another big market, but as I don't know if you heard, they've changed I don't know where they're at with that, with the TGA changing their classification of supplements.
Right.
I know one of the brands just got smashed with a couple $100,000 lawsuit. What's it called? I forgot what they're called. Growing up, they were a pretty popular brand for wrong labeling of products. Yeah, it's these markets. Australia's very, very different. So I think when we get to that point, we'll start looking into it in detail.
Mm-hmm. Given the current COVID crisis, pandemic hysteria that's sweeping on, how has that impacted the brand as far as sales, marketing, and what is it like locally in Colombia?
I'll start with the second question. So we went into lockdown, and we're still in lockdown. I've been outside of my complex, I think, one time on the weekend when we went out, and Colombia went into lockdown probably a month before America, full lockdown. So no flights in, nothing. We're allowed out of our the houses twice a week based on the last number of your ID to go get food and medical supplies. So they've taken it very strict here. In saying that, on the weekend we went out to one of the poorer areas and it was like no lockdown at all. Yeah. So I think where we are, the tourist area, it's very much lockdown. We don't have many cases here. It's starting to climb, but at the same time, I don't know what kind of testing they're doing here in Colombia. So I'd imagine it's very minute compared to America. And then, sorry, what was the first part of the question?
How has it impacted business, either operations, day-to-day stuff, sales volumes, I guess product release schedule? Because I've kind of gotten a mixed bag in talking to some other brand owners. Some of them say, we've made a few adjustments, but other than that, it's pretty much status quo for us. Other ones have said this really zapped us hard. And I think a big part of what I'm finding is that brands that do a decent amount of direct-to-consumer sales seem to be the ones that are kind of mitigating the storm as best as possible, whereas other ones that may have been a little bit more brick-and-mortar reliant are seem to be hurting more.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. We're very heavily D2C. So April was one of our bigger months. When I say that, I don't like to look at revenue. It's like, people look, oh, the business is doing great revenue. It's, in terms of acquisition costs, they were up, So overall the business growth was great. As a business, we're seeing a drop moving into May, and that's getting fueled from independent retailers obviously dropping quite a bit. And I think the brands that didn't have that diversification and were focusing mainly on brick and mortar are the ones that have suffered from this. We've had in the pipeline for our health-related products this year, and we've got many more. And, that COVID made us bring that forward, which helped quite a lot. So I guess pivoting messaging and that kind of stuff is important. Another thing, and I'm happy to sort of tackle this. Some people are talking about, immune products, why brands taking care of this. The way I see it is that brands need to pivot to survive. If they're putting out quality products in a category that already exists, what is wrong with that? So that's the way I see it from a business owner. I know a lot of people, you've seen people putting out immune product. And I think if you're marketing it like, hey, this is going to cure COVID, you're doing the wrong thing. At the end of the day, right. I look at our immune product, I feel it's up there with a top quality product. It's going to help people better than a lot of other categories. So
right.
Again, it goes back to the backlash that's part of this industry. No matter what you do, someone's going to come in there and not like it. So, but overall, as a business, we've had to work a lot harder. Our team has put in the effort. Hats off to them. They've been doing long hours, and I guess there's nothing else to do, so no one's complaining about that.
Yeah.
But overall, it's been positive. It's just what's going to happen the next 3 to 6 months.
Mhm.
That's going to be the part, I think.
Have y'all gotten increased demand? Now, you had the gut product in the pipeline and the immune product in the pipeline, and y'all may have some other general health stuff in the works. Have y'all gotten increased demand from the consumer side saying, hey, we want this now from y'all, or is it, do they kind of stay in their wheelhouse of wanting mostly like the performance enhancing stuff, the proteins, the recovery powders, the pre-workouts, fat burners, things like that?
Since we've launched those health products, we've had our audience, start asking what other additional, products are going to be releasing around the health range.
Mm-hmm.
So having some demand. What we're finding, again, this comes back to our initial sort of customer you bring into the business is, they're very performance based. So when you release something like Superhuman Gut, there's a barrier there, and like, why do I need this? And something as a brand we want to do more of is the education phase. And I'll put my hand up and say straight away, we don't do that to the best of our ability, to what we can. And
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to resources. It's not that we don't want it. So I think, I think those kind of products really do require a bit of education. Why do we need them?
Mm-hmm.
So there has been a bit of a lag in that kind of thing. And again, as we drive more of that consumer in that, is looking for these products, a different sort of reception to that. So that's been definitely a learning, and we kind of knew it, but again, it was something we wanted as owners. It was something that I've been wanting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of drives what we release, and obviously we have a private group that's, again, it's like a brotherhood, just like the Sub Snoop group. It's like a brotherhood, and we use these guys. What do you guys want? At the end of the day, it's a brand's driven by what consumers want.
Yeah.
So it's the best kind of data.
Yeah. Since you're more involved with the ops and I guess the advertising and marketing for the brand, what do you just personally feel is the best way to try and communicate the complexities of some of these, I guess, less sexy looking supplements like gut health ones, immune supplements, green supplements? Is it through doing, social media blasts? Is it through doing in-depth articles, explainer videos? How do you best feel it for your consumer base? What do you think resounds best with today's consumer?
I guess going on to attention spans of consumers these days, it's dropping, every year it's dropping even less. So for
Right.
us, I think really that initial sort of few seconds of any kind of communication needs to be benefit driven. I think a lot of brands maybe go more like, let's look at gut, for example. Do you think people really care that it's got CoreBiome, it's got estrogen in there? Like as a general consumer, that means nothing to them. But if you start talking about the benefits of what these ingredients do and then sort of lead into that, if someone's watching, towards a later part going to, it's a hard one as a brand as well. It's like it's a tricky one. It's, I see a lot of brands right now putting out good content, but sometimes I think, how many people are actually listening to that stuff because it's just too technical.
Right.
And it's, I go back to your President Trump, when he won his election, let's not get, he spoke to a level that was what he needed to, I think,
Yep.
that was great marketing. So, and, unfortunately, as a brand to survive, you need to understand how your consumers can understand and take in information. You need to give it to them in that way. So for us, I think it's very much benefit driven. But at the same time, it needs to, this product needs to do what it says it does. And there's a lot of products out there just benefit driven, but they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Y'all, since you were on the topic of superhuman gut, y'all are, I want to say, the first or one of the first to introduce the CoreBiome, which is the new ingredient from Compound Solutions, which is a bioavailable form of butyrate, which plays a very important role in the functioning of the cells that line your small intestinal wall. How did y'all either come across it? And I guess what was it about it that made it stand out compared to other forms of butyrate? And walk us through what it. You mentioned the VASO 6 ruling that we just got word of the other day. So when you're exploring these new ingredients, give the listeners insight into how some of these partnerships may work, and what do they bring to the table? What do you bring to the table, and what is it that ultimately convinces you to use that ingredient in your product?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, the CoreBiome is a Compound Solutions ingredient. We got a great relationship with those guys. They obviously, as some of the better ingredients on the market. And I think we've worked with a lot of specialty ingredient suppliers, and they're one of the ones that have just, when you need studies, when you need everything, the paperwork, like now with bodybuilding.com, the process to get a product on there, they ask for everything. You go to Compound Solutions, they have that. So I guess number one is, building those relationships and, we'd been looking for quite some time, on the gut side and looking how we can come to the market with something different. And, and the specialty ingredient is one thing that consumers look for. But I think there's almost can be too much emphasis on that. It's like someone can bring a specialty ingredient to market without any really research on it. And the consumer just sees it, as a specialty ingredient and accepts it. Whereas, the compound solution is the opposite side of things. So we do a lot of research, and I'm involved in that part. I love, my downtimes researching and reading. And I'm not an expert. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I can read, I can research, I can, understand this kind of stuff. So, that's always our process, is first identifying what a problem we're trying to solve here, and then digging deep into, what is out there already that we know, and then researching first, what additional ingredients, and, you get down in that rabbit hole and you can find some good stuff. I've got some cool stuff that we're working on, but just trying to dig deeper into the research of it first before, it comes to market. But that was one of the things with the gut. We reached out to Compound Solutions and told them what we're working on, and they're going down more the health space, I guess, now.
Yeah,
with a lot of, and again, that's market demand. It's where the market is. So yeah, and they sort of showed us some information, dug deep into it, and it looked great. So that's where it sort of came from. And I guess from a brand, it's just building those relationships. There's a lot of other great ones out there, and we're working with some more now, but I think they're still in the earlier stages of bringing in. Let's take Mitoburn for example. We can't get that onto bodybuilding.com because of no grass status yet. So these are the things where Compound Solutions has all this stuff in place.
What are some of the other hurdles, I guess, with getting products on to bodybuilding.com? Because this is the second time you've mentioned some of the challenges with getting just into that retailer in general, and they're obviously one of the larger internet retailers out there for dietary supplements. So give the listeners a little bit of an insight into, I guess, some of the hurdles you have to jump over as a brand owner to get things kosher over there.
Well, I guess difference between something like bodybuilding.com and your own online platform is compliance. I think brands probably a little bit less focused on compliance on their own websites, whereas bodybuilding.com will look at everything. Every little thing that you think, well, why are they looking at this? But they will look at it. Being such a big company, they've got eyes on them.
Right.
And that's probably a big lesson for us. We've had people knocking on our door now, and I think any brand that's sort of listening is starting to grow, they should get that compliance side in place. But that's a big one. There's a process. You got to. It's not just on our end. If we want to get something online, it's give it to some person. Let's get it on. Bodybuilding.com. There's different people that in different roles you have to go through. But the compliance on their end is probably the big one. And they're doing that obviously for protection. But some things you think doesn't make sense, but you don't know what's going on in their shoes. From a consumer perspective, I think that's another thing. When brands make decisions, consumers need to put themselves in the shoes of the brand for a moment. And why did they make that decision? But it's unfortunately easy.
Do you find them more intensive or complicated to get products on than other internet retailers? Are they the most cumbersome to work with or intricate?
Definitely for us so far, yeah. We're not on a lot of independents, but in terms of the biggest sort of online retailer, yeah, they're definitely the one that has been a bit of a process.
Gotcha. One thing I'd like to get your opinion on is the approach to your distribution. As far as some brands will want to say, well, we want to be kind of exclusive or premium, and you can only get us in a few certain locations, where other people say, we want to get it out to everybody. If there's 15 internet retailers out there, we're going to go to all 15. We're going to try and get as many brick and mortars as possible. Whereas some of other brands want to, get a little bit more exclusive with it. They may only go into one or two places. What do you see as the pros and cons of each, and what is your take on how the most effective way to get your product to the consumer is?
Yeah, I think for us, it all starts with the mission statement. Where do you want to be? For us, I'm not interested in growing a small brand. It's just me internally. I will get bored. I want to keep going, and I want that fire to just within me to keep going. For us, our mission statement is how many people can we help? So how to do that? You need to be everywhere, and I understand that can upset some people. The way I look at it is, if you build enough demand. And that's why we started on the D2C. That's our strength. If you build up enough brand asset, brand equity, I don't see why, two retailers next door, retailers have their loyal consumers, so they bring them in. That's what they're good at.
for me, it's always been about we run launches when we launch a product. We run it first and give it to our retailers, because what generally happens is we'll run out and then we go out to our retailers. It creates that demand to our retailers, you know, and we know that has a flow-on effect. So I look at that. It's based on the mission statement. We want to help as many people. To do that, we need to be everywhere. We're going to run into some roadblocks, and I think when we run into those is when we start tackling them. But I feel as long as we create enough brand equity, brand assets, then everyone should be happy. The only other thing is going to be pricing strategies. As you know, that's going to be the trick. If you're on Amazon, you're here, you're there. It's pricing it so that it's equal is probably the biggest part.
Okay. Most recently, 4 hours ago, y'all teased 4 protein flavors on your Instagram channel. What can you tell us about that, if anything? And then I guess we'll go from that and we'll lead into just flavor creation from the brand. So I guess let's first start about what can you tell us about this alpha-line protein y'all are teasing?
Yeah, so this is actually a good question, because when we released GOATein, we were trying to be clever with our marketing. We were trying to do something different in the industry. And again, this comes back to just consumers not accepting, I guess, protein as a commodity. Price point is everything. It's price sensitive.
Right.
It's really hard to come in and do something different. And we tried to do that, and we priced ourselves out. And not only that, the GOATein, and this goes back to what I was saying about our consumers. You need to understand your consumer. They think that's goat's milk, so that's been a challenge, Yeah. So for us, it's, coming in with a rebrand, trying to look at a way to not take out the quality, but cheapen, bring down the retail price of that product so that, we can drive some demand, get in more people.
Right.
And then, flavors, how do you be unique in flavors? It's a hard one. You look at Ghost, they brought to the market with, the flavor collaborations. Now, if you come with a flavor collaboration, you're following Ghost, it's like that's what people start saying.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's a hard one. And we're trying to find unique ways to come into that market, into a commodity, and be different. So for us, it's a big rebrand on that, new flavors. And we haven't thought too much else there. So I'm not going to give too much away, but the rebrand should help get rid of the goat.
The confusion.
Is this goat? Yeah. So, yeah, and that's another big lesson we learned, but I wouldn't take it back. It was, we tried to be too clever with our marketing. We had all these campaigns, we planned around this, and it just backfired. So it'll happen again, Yeah. We still like to joke around about, we released a flavor back in our early days called Berrygasm. I think it was in Alpha Dreams, and I don't know what happened. I can't explain what happened. Troy signed off on it, and it was just horrid.
It didn't resound with the consumer?
Nah, it's a hard product to flavor to start with, but this was just, it was, one customer said it, tasted like feet, so it was just, as a brand, you go through these things and it's just lessons, but we like to have a joke around them and just show people, hey, we're human too. It's going to happen again. So, and I think that's another good way for brands to sort of resonate with consumers. It's not just robots behind here.
Yeah. With staying on with the protein, is it going to say, so GOATein currently is a whey protein isolate. Will the new rebranded protein, will that be an isolate as well, or are y'all thinking a blend, or do you not want to even give any of that away right now? Which I understand if you don't.
No, that one's going to stay as an isolate. We are going to look at a blend, but not for that launch. A blend later on. We'll put more thought into that. We've got a few additional products that we're looking at for the rest of the year. Some pretty cool things that we're working on, some new ingredients. It should be a big year. I think we've had a big start to the year. I think the last 6 weeks have been, about 6 different product drops. We've got June's a big month for us. Some exciting stuff. And then, I guess the distribution, the back end of this year is, working on how can we expand the brand reach, looking at ways to do that, international, but who knows what's going to happen with COVID, with everything going on. I think online at the moment is where to be.
Agreed.
In the short term anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see sort of the last 6 months of this year, how that pans out.
Yeah. How do y'all decide which flavors you're going to release? Is it something that is driven more from the consumer side of things? They're asking for certain flavors? Is it y'all are tired of seeing the same 6 flavors repeated endlessly? Because some of the stuff y'all have is very different from what you'll find at other brands. So you've got Tropic Thunder, which is a pineapple flavor. You've got the Leg Day Limeade, which is the Gatorade, which is a sour lime popsicle. So you've got unique spins and flavors that aren't as common to the industry. So what's driving that, and then how long do some of these flavors take to get ready for market?
Yeah, so this is where Troy shines, and our creative director. Just the way their brains think is just, and that's our personality as a brand coming out. Just some of the stuff they come up with is just so unique and on a daily basis. So we always just, it starts with what are we doing? We're releasing a new flavor of protein. We'll start internally putting together some ideas. Then we'll go back with our manufacturing side. How can we put our spin on it? And then we generally sort of isolate it down to a certain number of flavors and then go into our group and sort of let them, decide, get them quite involved. It's been a big part. I like to spend probably anywhere from half an hour to an hour a day inside the group responding to people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been another reason we've built such a solid sort of tribe, has been coming from that.
Yeah.
So many brands that are sort of getting started, it's work, but I think you need to do it. It allows that point and, a face behind the brand.
Let's discuss now the Gaines candy line of stuff. Give us a little bit of insight into why y'all named it the way you did. Because it's it's a single ingredient line, so but at the same time, usually these single ingredient releases from companies are more commodity products. But the four products you've got, it's S7, which everybody that listens to the show knows my feelings on S7 for better or worse. But dynamine, teacrine, and mitoburn, none of those ingredients are very cheap. So it's interesting that y'all are releasing premium ingredients under the Gaines candy line as solo. So give us, explain, I guess, the thought process behind that.
Yeah, well, I guess that all started with, I think these days people are looking at, we're so unique, how you take a pre-workout and how it feels for you is so different to me. And this is brought up a lot on, a lot of the podcasts. Justin's Instagram is, the best thing. It's like, we're also unique in that we created that series originally to allow people to optimize, their workouts, whether it's at home doing work or going to work out. And that was more so for Troy and myself. I used to take my pre-workout and I used to chuck in some dynamine, some teacrine into it, and one day I'd take 100 milligrams, other day 200 milligrams based on how it felt. So that was really where that sort of came from. And I think as the industry grows, that personalization is definitely going to get bigger. And when consumers start realizing that, hey, you can get some guidance from someone saying, hey, this product works for me, but you should really try it before you don't buy it or do buy it. So, I think that sort of range came. And for us, it was always about using premium ingredients. And I guess it allowed a way, you start putting these premium ingredients into a pre-workout, consumers are like, well, I'm not paying for that. It's too expensive. Again, it's a demand from them. So this allows you a way to still have a good product, but, allow the consumer to buy these, and play with their dosing. So we've got a lot of things planned for that. We don't market it very well, I would say. We've got a lot of things we're planning to do. We've got a couple of new ingredients that I haven't seen on the market yet that we're looking at for the Gaines candy. And maybe, and again, going back, there might be a rebrand on that long term. Is it confusing for consumer? Gaines candy, when we first launched that, it was more around the marketing side of it. So, there's a lot of things we're doing with that, and it's going to evolve as sort of the brand does.
Yeah. The name it's very catchy, at least from my point of view, and the font almost reminds me of like Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo back from my childhood. But it's a capsule delivery system, obviously, but have y'all considered, since you called it Gaines candy, is there any way y'all could actually turn that into like gummies or something like that? Now I know teacrine and dynamine taste horrid, but is it possible that maybe you could encapsulate it or put it in like a gel cap or a chewable to make it taste different?
Yeah, definitely. We've considered that. We've looked at, in terms of absorption with the DR caps, these kind of things. It's something definitely, and I think from a consumer standpoint, they're looking for these different kind of delivery systems, whether it's, how it's encapsulated, whether it's gummies. And that's something as a brand as we evolve and new things come to market, we'll look at. But the gummies is definitely one because, we're talking smaller dosages, most of these.
Right.
We have consumers asking all the time, why don't you put superhuman into gummies? And it's just, as you know.
You could do that.
It's not going to happen. So it's like with these kind of things, you definitely, you could go down that path. So I think that's going to evolve definitely. It's definitely going to increase that range. Purely on from a customization perspective. There's definitely a demand out there for it. Consumers are starting to personalize. I'm seeing some brands. I can't remember what the nootropic company I came across the other day that's like personalized nootropic. It was a pretty cool concept.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but executing something like this is a lot harder, as you know, personalize anything.
Right. Is there any thought or hope or desire to one day move into the functional food category or expand superhuman into a food space?
100%. It's already. I'm not going to sit here and say we're not looking at it. At what point, I don't know. It's definitely something. We've got some good ideas here. Some, again, with our personality, and as a brand, as we grow, this is a way to, reach into different consumers. So yeah, it's definitely. I'm going to say with a big yes there.
Excellent. Give us some insight into what your personal daily supplement regimen is like, and what kind of your personal fitness habits, because you mentioned you're fairly religious with your fitness and everything, so it's a key part of your day.
Yeah, so unlike Troy, who gets to train probably 3 or 4 times a day, is because it's part of his job. I'm pressed to get one session in a day with everything going on. If I don't train in the morning, it's gone. For me, it's like the morning is, that's my window. Obviously now with COVID going on, it's been pretty hard. I managed to convince my compound to let me use, we've got a small gym in our building. So, right now my day's I get up quite early. I'm up about 5 a.m. I've got my little routine in the morning, and then I try to do work from 6 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And always, at the moment, I'm just superhuman burns being it's like just enjoying that one. I've been having 1 scoop, sometimes 2 scoops. I'm trying to taper off stims. I'm trying not to go, more than 300 milligrams a day, which has been a challenge.
Yeah.
So, and again, with everything going on, I guess, I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't tried to help my immunity by taking things like religiously, my greens, my armor, gut. That's definitely been in my mind, but these are kind of products that I'm always going to keep taking. I try with my sleep. This is my kryptonite. I've been trying to optimize my sleep, do different things. Aura rings. I've got the Muse device. I've tried everything, and it's having 2 dogs doesn't help.
Right.
It's like having 2 babies. But I try not to use not sleep products too often. Unless I feel like I really need to, something like Alpha Dreams, I don't use too often. It's about just getting into a nighttime routine. Because honestly, for me, the other week we were meant to have a call, and I had to reschedule because I was, I was just brain fog, and that comes from no sleep.
Yeah.
So that's the most important, and we try to preach that a lot in our education. Is it's great taking a pre-workout, increasing your training intensity, but if you're not sleeping well that night, it's like just thrown out the window, isn't it? So.
Yep.
I guess in terms of routine, for me, sleep's been my big focus, but it's been the hardest as well to get right. Consistent, I guess.
Yeah, and I've been struggling with it. I'll go through, and Justin and I have talked about this. There seems to be 1 week every month when sleep just escapes me or eludes me completely. I'll be able to sleep for 2 hours here, and then I'll lay awake for 2 hours, and I can get another hour and a half of sleep. And that happened to me last night, to where I took a 400 milligram plus pre-workout, and usually I do somewhere between 200 and 300. The 400 milligram pre-workout just got me to basic human functioning level. Before that, I had zero motivation. I felt like a freaking zombie. Probably like you were last week when we were talking. And then even after that, I was recording another podcast yesterday, and I had to I took another nootropic on top of that to even just try to get me into a conversational mode to get my shit together, to where I didn't sound like a bumbling idiot the entire episode. So hopefully, that one's gonna launch next Tuesday. So hopefully that one comes out okay. But sleep is so critical.
You end up in a big cycle, if you just get that sleep part right, you don't need to take all these other things as much, So I think it's, again, with telephones, with, the stress in our society, everything like that, it's just going to be harder and harder. And again, it's one of those things that's just not a sexy topic. You talk about pre-workout, instant gratification, sleep. It's a long-term thing, So it just goes back to us as humans, I think.
Yeah.
What our priorities are.
Yeah, and that's what I've almost started to try. Not that it's a concerted effort on my part or something, but when people are looking for natural muscle builder supplements, I always try to steer them away into look at a sleep aid first, because if you could get your sleep right, I'm assuming you've got your training and your diet already on point. My next thing is look at sleep, because that is going to have so much more profound effect than any other kind of product you could even consider about supplementing with on the market.
100%. But trying to actually explain that is the hard part, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Convincing them that is what might be lacking more than something else that they would want to add to their regimen or not.
Yeah.
Um, Earlier you mentioned something about a nootropic coming out. Can you give us any hints on maybe what y'all are thinking of? Is it going to be capsule or is it going to be powder? And then what's kind of I guess your personal experience with nootropics?
This is a hard category. And again, this is a hard category because I think go back to the uniqueness of each person.
Hmm.
With the pre-workout, I feel you can put out a good formula and you'll get a majority of people that will like it. With the nootropic, I feel, you can put out a good formula and you're going to have a lot, it's going to be very more mixed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the people that are taking a nootropic are more of an educated consumer, so they understand this.
Yeah.
So for us, we're looking at both either pill or powder, where I want it to be a pill, but I think based on the formula, and the dosages, we're going to have to go with powder. And then it just comes back down to, obviously a couple of these ingredients don't flavor well, just looking at all those kind of things. So we are playing with both. We're still in that phase where the current formula is just, the pricing on it's ridiculous. So we've got to look at how we can, bring that back. But it's just, for me, it's a product where I want to take it, where I'm just like, I don't care about the price for this. But we need to find a happy medium where it's, it's a quality product, and the consumers are still going to accept it with the price point. So we're still in the early stages there. We have got a couple of not cool, like I guess unique mechanism actions we're trying to take with that one. Whether it's going to work based on pricing or that, we don't know yet. So I'm aiming for maybe July, August with that one. But that one's going to be sort of, we're looking at like a two-part system with gut and the brain one with that one. So
Cool.
give consumers the opportunity to buy one or the other.
Yeah, and I think one other thing that I guess often gets overlooked when brands are formulating nootropics is that I don't know if they consider that some people might be using both a pre-workout and a nootropic during the day. To where you got to, I guess, look for not overdoing the caffeine or some of the other ingredients like huperzine, because a lot of people will put huperzine in pre-workouts or fat burners, and then you also get like a whopping dose in the nootropic, and you end up blowing them out with too much choline in the brain or acetylcholine. So it'll be. I'm curious to see what y'all end up doing with this. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of testing in this one. Like I said, I take a lot of it's more research. I buy a lot of brands, nootropics, and see how they how they are in terms of. There's some that I just take almost. I'm dead to the day. It's just absolutely just give me brain fog. So it's a hard one because it's like, what are you substituting here? What are you deficient in?
Right.
So it's a difficult one. I think a lot of people don't probably enter this category for that reason. It's not, like I said, it's not like a pre-workout where you're going to get that energy hit. They're going to be like, oh, this is good. So,
right.
But it's where we want to go in terms of a brand and products that we definitely I use quite frequently.
Yeah. Are there any single ingredient nootropics? I mean, if you've experimented with other brands or something, you don't have to mention those or anything. But is there any single ingredients that you've been particularly fond of? Like I really like rhodiola and teacrine. That combination always seems to work really well for me. Are there any just individual things that you've kind of noticed that have stuck out to you?
Yeah, I really like alpha GPC. It's something we've looked at for a while. I think that's just a really good quality ingredient that we've thought about in Gaines Candy. But obviously, a nootropic without a choline source is not really a nootropic. So we're trying to look at and this is something we do as a brand quite often, is when we bring a new ingredient to market, if it's in a formula, it's in a single ingredient as well, because it gives the consumer that opportunity to play with that separately. When you've got 10 ingredients in a formula, it's really hard to isolate what's working for you.
Correct.
And that's another reason what the Gaines Candy series is for. We've been working on a GDA for quite some time, and the full stack formula, we were working on, we sent out to, I think Justin had a version, a few of the guys had different versions of GDA just to see what was pulling the weight, because these aren't cheap products.
Correct.
We isolated the one ingredient that is doing most of the heavy lifting, so we're bringing that out come June as a standalone. And it gives, I think that right now as a GDA market is, you're talking $50 to $70 entry point for a consumer.
Yeah.
This is going to allow consumers to come in a lot cheaper and actually test and play with this, this ingredient and add it in before they, upgrade into maybe a full formula. And for us, we felt this single ingredient, like I said, was just doing most of the heavy lifting. So we don't want to charge a consumer an extra 100% just because there's other ingredients in there.
Right.
But in saying that, I think long term we are going to be working on how can we get that full GDA formula to its max capacity and potentially release that as a full formula down the track.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we're sort of looking at.
Yeah. Do you personally eat a lot of carbs where you would use a GDA, or I know a lot of brand owners, I'm starting to realize some of them are venturing more towards like the biohack or keto low carb thing, and others are just, the typical fitness bodybuilder athlete diet where it's higher carbs, lower, moderate fats and higher protein.
Well, from a brand perspective, I guess if I ask you the question, what's easier for a brand to market, it's always the cheat meal side of things.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one. It's like, again, it's driven by consumer demand, but there's a lot of ways you can use a GDA. But then now we're going to the education phase of, trying to educate your consumers. And I think they are versatile. And I think, just the name itself probably doesn't help sell the product. It's a bit confusing to consumers. So, we're sort of bringing it out as it has multi-use, and, for us, it's about how to educate it and use it for different things. But again, the consumer is going to be, how do I use this from a fat loss angle? I do eat a lot of carbs, and something that, like, I've always grown up with a really strict diet. When I was younger, and this goes back to my fashion business days. I wanted a fashion brand because I wanted to be around women. I always had 8% body fat, and like I said, it was the complete opposite. Backfired on me, that one. So I was always training to get really, lean. Whereas now I've just learned how my body adapts, and I'm not strict on my diet. I eat clean, but I stay quite lean all year round. And that's my diet, my supplementation regime. Multiple different things, how I train. So GDA for me, it's like I do still enjoy those. Let's call them cheat meals. I do enjoy that. So is it a way that I supplement that in there, and every now and then it's going to curb those? It's something we have seen that it does aid. So to what extent is that going to be? You can't just be in a 1,000 calorie surplus and just take GDAs and expect you to, every cheat meal,
Right.
That's the thing. It's going to help, but to what extent? It all comes back down to your diet.
Correct. Moving to some lighter topics here. What kind of Colombian food? How is the Colombian food scene? And have you come across any dishes that just may replace some of your favorite childhood dishes from Australia?
I'd love to say yes, but there's not one single dish in Colombia that I would recommend to you. It's very everything here is very like deep fried. Like their traditional dishes like arepa, which is basically like corn.
Yep.
Beans. They call them frijoles here. It's nothing like. I go to Mexico, I can eat that food all day long. Here it's not healthy, and they just haven't been brought up to learn how to cook. Here in Colombia, where like it's very cheap. I can have a full-time maid here, and it's it's very, very cheap. And I've tried to have a full-time chef. I've been through 5, and it just ends up being easy for me to cook. And I enjoy cooking, so I guess I wish I could give you a better answer. Maybe you like the food, but for me, it hasn't been a hit.
We have not ventured to Colombia yet. We've been to Mexico and Italy and Canada as far as our out of U.S. excursions, but we have not ventured as far as Colombia yet. I love food. Both me and my wife love food, so we're. What do you like to actually cook?
So now, like my girlfriend, it's actually surprising. Going back to what I was saying, Colombians how to cook. My girlfriend actually knows how to cook quite well. Based on time, I eat pretty basic. I eat a lot of chicken. I cook a lot of barbecues here. I don't eat so much meat. Unfortunately, fish here in Colombia is not very fresh. So things like salmon and stuff here, it's just not fresh.
It's
we're in
frozen.
Australia. So chicken for me is a big sort of staple. I eat a lot of eggs. I keep my cooking very basic. But my girlfriend's she's starting to venture out into some unique cooking. Infusing a bit of Colombian with whatever she's learned online. But you can't go past Mexican or Italian when you're up there, the 2 best cuisines in the world. I can see why you're going there.
Oh yeah. It was interesting. As great as the cuisine was, I mean, after I think we were there for 2 weeks. Man, by like day 10 or 11, I was about pasta and pizza out of everything. I mean, Italian pizza and pasta is very different than what you're going to get in the States because, Americans bastardize everything and they just try to make it their own. But I mean, even then, by the end, my wife was saying, man, we really need to find like a Tex-Mex restaurant or something like that because she wanted just like her comfort food is like refried beans and tortillas and stuff like that. So our last night there, we got off this like 8 hour long excursion. We dove straight to this Tex-Mex place. It was god awful. It was horrendous. The service sucked. The food was miserable. But all in all, it was just like it was something that wasn't just traditional Italian food.
I think that's with everything. You eat the same thing every day, and that is it's Italy. I've been in 3 times, I think, and it's the same thing everywhere. And I find the further you get away from the hotspots, the better the Italian food gets. I think that's which is fun, but it's like that with everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, we tried to find as many hole in the walls as possible when we went. That was 5 years ago now. Was when we were there.
I'm meant to be flying to Europe, to Italy on 1 week today, and it's all cancelled. So like I had a 6 week trip booked with my girlfriend starting June 2nd for my birthday, and we were going. I'm a big football fan, soccer in America. I think it's called soccer, and playing all my life, and we had I went to the World Cup 2-3 years ago by myself, and we had the Euro 2020 booked this year, and and I was meant to fly next week, and it's all cancelled. So I'm a bit upset with that one. That was Italy. I was spending 15 days in Italy.
Bummer. That sucks, man.
Now it's a challenge to even get the flights back.
Yeah, they're not letting any flights in or out of Colombia still. I think you mentioned that earlier.
So if I wanted to go back to Australia, I could get out, but I wouldn't be able to get back. Yeah, I think till September they've blocked all flights here.
Wow.
Or for unless you've got a visa, you won't be able to get back in. Yeah, so I've got a visa, so I probably could get back in, but it's just it's probably not worth leaving. Gotcha. I don't think you'd be able to go anywhere anyway, other than Australia, where I've got a passport.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure things are still locked down here. I mean, we can travel between the states, and the Texas governor finally lifted his self-imposed quarantine on people traveling from New York, New Jersey, or Louisiana, because those were 3 of the hot spots in the state. Okay. So people, if they entered the state lines, and I guess if they had to self-quarantine for 14 days, I don't know how the hell they could keep track of that, but I guess it was more the optics of saying, we're not okay with these people being out in public. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. This was awesome, Jordan. Thank you for making the time today, man. And
likewise, appreciate it.
This is the part where you can shamelessly plug anything and everything Alpha Lion and why people should choose you guys for their supplement needs.
Oh, geez, this is a good one. Yes, I think for us, Alpha Lion is if you're someone that's probably starting your fitness journey, looking for, I guess, a roadmap. We provide a lot of educational, content in terms of how to train, nutrition. Troy's got a YouTube, and I think that's for us as for someone that's just getting into their training, a beginner, or someone that's, maybe a couple of years in looking for new methods to train. That's definitely for us a little bit of a point of difference. And again, at the end of the day, there's some great brands out there. I like to think that we're up there with a, transparent brand, high quality. And for us, a big part of the brand is always going to be a giving back aspect. So if you are looking for a new brand, come check out Alpha Lion. We'll definitely look after you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for the time today, Jordan, and we'll be in touch, man. Thank you.
Guys, appreciate it. Have a good day. Chat soon.